Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Saturday morning, my friends, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Good morning. This is Ellen coming to you from the tropical isle of St. Barth. And today we discuss lame gobos, working on rock tours, becoming a good leader, matching LED colors to gels, and speed cue writing, all on Light Talk.
And this is David coming to you from the beautiful but rainy Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Luman Brothers.
And sister.
That's right, Ellen. Hey, Ellen, welcome back. You know, we were supposed to do a show last week, but boy, it was like the perfect storm of bad casserole of nonsense last. We had no nonsense, so we couldn't do a show.
No nonsense. Speaking of nonsense, how come none of you are at USITT?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm opening shows. Last week it was me and three others. We were the four LDs of the apocalypse trying to get a show open.
Wow.
And next week I'm opening another show, another ballet next week.
Well, there you go.
I'm busy.
This
earning
is
money.
like the first time I've missed it in probably 30 years, but I'm not kidding. But we are giving our annual Rising Star Award to a wonderful, really talented young video and projection designer called Adam J. Thompson. So everybody should go look on the Live Design, www.livedesignonline.com website. There's a wonderful story with him and his work is really, really interesting. I think he's on the cutting edge.
Oh, I smell an interview coming up in a few weeks.
Well, if you want to get into projection and video, absolutely.
Sure.
He's really interesting.
We've had a lot of projection and video people on our show.
Great. We can get Zach on the team.
Yeah, get Zach on the team. We'll talk projections and video. Awesome.
Absolutely. Let's do that.
What city is it in this year?
It's this weekend. It's in St. Louis.
Oh, St. Louis. I love St. Louis.
Well, there you go.
It's not too late.
Oh, I have a gig this weekend. No, I'm playing in a band this weekend. I'm doing a big show in a tiny little dirty, disgusting club. But yeah, I mean that's basically what I'm doing. So I can't do it. So what can I tell you? It's just one of those things. So anyway, let's get started with some news. And boy, a lot's been going on this week, especially the Academy Awards. Hey, anyone watch the Academy Awards?
Absolutely.
Yes. I can't not watch them, even though I understand that generations after me might not be so interested. The boomers still like it.
It's like watching a train wreck.
Well, there was a funny cartoon on Facebook the other day where the husband says to the wife, they're lying in bed, and he says, I hope we can get through at least one movie so we can watch the Academy Awards. But this year was interesting. I thought it was very beautifully designed.
Yes.
It's like the first year in a couple of years since COVID that they went back to the more traditional seating arrangement in the Dolby Theater in Hollywood. And it is the first year that the design, not the lighting design, but the scenic design was done by two women who have worked on the show before, but this year they were the main designers, Alana Billingsley and Misty Buckley. And they really did a beautiful job. I think it was sort of like make you feel like you were in old Hollywood movie theaters. And I thought they really did a great job.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that the addition of the mosh pit right downstage was really nice, helpful. And all that security there was great too. You need that security.
It was, it was very warm. There was bronze and brass and sort of silver. And it was not like, glitzy and glamoury and glittery. And one of them referred to it as like, a love affair to the movies, a fantasy movie theater with a sense of history. And I think they did a really, really beautiful job. And of course, the lighting was by Oscar veterans Bob Dickinson and Noah Mitz from Full Flood. I'd love to get them on someday. They are a really talented pair of designers.
Yeah, we should get them on. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful show. And they don't have the red carpet anymore. Isn't that true? They do a white carpet or blue carpet or something out front.
Well, I think this year they called it the red carpet, but I do think it was white.
Okay. Okay. So it was white.
It's symbolically red, right?
Maybe it was because it clashed with the costumes. Maybe they thought that they needed something neutral, When I say costumes, I meant the dresses, the gowns, the fashion stuff happening in there. It was a good show, and congratulations.
It was a very good show. It was a very
to
good
Noah
show.
And Bob, as usual, doing great work. Also, this week, Silicone Valley Bank is out of business.
Yeah. It's interesting, too, because Silicone Valley Bank was really like the tech startup bank.
That's right.
And they apparently got caught in the interest rate squeeze and couldn't service their debt. And I just thought that those old-fashioned, runs on banks to get your money out was a thing of the past, but I guess it's not.
Well, they made the David Jacques financial mistake, and that is throwing all your money into fixed income when you shouldn't have.
Yeah, where's Ethan when we need him?
It's interesting. We're actually doing a joint show for Artistic Finance and Light Talk. And we're going to be talking about finances on this show, and then it's going to be broadcast on Ethan's website. And that's going to happen in a few weeks in time for taxes. So hold off on paying your taxes till you hear the show. No, don't listen to this show if you want to be safe, because we are not financial experts, but we will be talking about the finances of the business from the Luman Brothers and Sisters perspectives, and tells you why we're so rich here and living on our islands right now. But yeah, so
that is a joke, ladies and gentlemen.
Right, absolutely. So that's coming up just in time for April 15th. Tax Day. Also, our upcoming 6th anniversary show is coming up. That's going to be in a couple of weeks, and we're pretty excited about that. And we have a secret guest for that show. So we're all really excited for that one.
If it's a secret guest, does that mean that we have to wear blindfolds?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like, what was that? What's My Line? Remember that old show? You'd have to guess the person, who they were, what they did. So wouldn't that be cool?
Actually, it's a podcast. I think you have to wear earplugs.
Oh, yes. That works.
There you go. Okay. Well, Steve has the first question of the day.
Yes, it comes from Mia in Hong Kong. And she writes, why do moving light companies load their lights with lame gobos? Well.
Oh, dear. Did she say why she thought they were lame?
I mean, come on, Mia. Who doesn't like a good ceiling fan in your moving light, or a cone, or a dot breakup? Hey, yes.
Can I say something about ceiling fans? In the last house I lived in for 25 years, we had ceiling fans. We have them again here. We have 100% peaked roofs with beautiful exposed beams and ceiling fans. However, in this house, for the first time ever in my life, we put little LED spots up in the ceiling. The problem is that when the lights are on and the fan is on, you get epilepsy. It's right. Awful.
Yeah. You shouldn't never have a light above a ceiling fan.
No, it's terrible. So that's why Mia doesn't like that gobo, because it's lame.
Yeah, and it throws her into epileptic seizures too. I mean, that would be a real big problem. No, it's really not funny. In the bathroom, fortunately it's the worst in there. Fortunately, we put another, a big long LED light over the medicine cabinet, so you can, and that's below the fan, so you can turn off the ceiling lights, turn on the fan, and turn on the other light, and save yourself from the epileptic shock. I actually have a solution for you, Ellen. You get these little battery-powered LED cubes that have double stick tape, and you stick them to the bottom of the fan blades.
Oh, no,
so then you can have the lights on, and they can turn, but the lights are going to be turning, but you won't get a shadow of the fan, but it'll be a whole nother effect for you.
Oh, God, I don't think I want it. I don't want to do that. That would be hideously ugly. But
no, add a little scented, coconut scented fog juice and the fog machine in the bedroom. It could add a whole nother level of excitement in there.
That's right.
I don't think so.
For our listeners at home, while Ellen is speaking, she's pointing up to the mysterious ceiling fan above her head. Then she's pointing off to the right where her bathroom is. So
right, I'll get it. Hold on.
Okay. Well, Mia, someone's got to buy the lame gobos. I think they're not lame if you are working in rock and roll. So I think.
See, there you go.
I think. Oh, she's showing us the ceiling fan now, and it is
Oh,
strobing.
there it is. Oh my God. Oh, I'm gonna. Oh my God. All right. This is
Having a seizure.
I'm getting nervous. I'm getting very nervous.
Oh God. So
Okay, back to lame gobos.
I think that.
Well, that's why she doesn't like it. That's what you get with the lame gobos.
It's true. It's true.
I think if you're in the theater and you turn some haze on and you turn the lame gobos on, you're going to get really great aerial effects. I mean, who doesn't like a good Cleon battle axe? You know, it doesn't work so well in Taming of the Shrew or You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, but it's pretty good for some death metal. I think you have to keep these gobos in perspective for what they're building them for. And they're building these lights, for aerial work. And they figure if you need a construction gobo or a tree gobo, that's even more money because now you're going to have to buy that gobo and pull out the night sky gobo that does nothing and put in the gobo that works for your show. I mean, David, what do you do? How many lame gobos do you run into when you're over in Europe?
Well, I specify all my gobos. That's part of the budgets of the shows I do. And I actually have a pro tip for you, Mia. If you're buying the lights, as part of the deal, you just tell them, yeah, you're going to throw in 6 new gobos on all of our lights or 12 new gobos, whatever it is. Believe me, they'll do it because they're talking about lots of money.
If you ask for and you pay for them.
Yeah. No, you don't pay for them. No, not if you're buying the light.
If I want a rain effect and I want a snow effect and I want cathedral windows and I want stained glass, I can get that?
Sure. You can they make any custom gobo you want. I'm not saying that the company will supply that type of custom gobo, but there are so many gobos that are already made that you can say, I want a square. Like I like squares. If your light doesn't have shutters, I'll have square and rectangle gobos. Because I can usually use them to create shutters. So when you say you specify
them, who's making them for you?
There are companies that do special gobos. You can do custom gobos. I do them all the time.
So the opera company gets them made for you in advance?
Yeah, exactly. You got to get lead time.
There's actually a custom shop here in Dallas that makes gobos.
There are quite a few, actually.
But also,
right? No, I knew that. I just didn't understand that when he was saying that whether like Claypacky put them in or who puts them in.
Each light comes with standard gobos. But if you're buying like a dozen lights, which is going to cost you close to $100,000, they're going to give you whatever gobos you want.
Right.
You just specify the gobos you want.
I hear
and they'll
you.
give them to you. They're not going to charge you for
them.
I suspect if SeaWorld calls up and orders 100 lights, that's yes. You can have anything you want.
SeaWorld doesn't need, it depends. SeaWorld has the money to buy the gobos. A school doesn't. And that's a lot of money because those gobos could be very expensive, especially if they're custom ones. But, I know that, and I shouldn't name the company only because I'm going to name them because they're such a great company and that's high-end systems. And I bought some lights several years ago from them. And I told them these lights don't have shutters, but I would really like to have some square gobos, some rectangles and things like that. They did it. And it's just part of the deal. It's cost of doing business for them. And it probably only cost them like $10 a gobo, really. It was not that big of a deal. Not when you're buying a $9,000, $10,000 light. Something, I must agree with Mia that I think those gobos that come in with most moving lights are totally lame. I mean, they really are because everybody has the cone because that was like the iconic sort of first moving light look, the tunnel of light sort of thing. That's cool. But if you're doing theater, you're never going to use that. Chances are you're not going to use it. You're much better off with a good set of breakups, a good set of, of larger, smaller ones, some construction gobos, which is also it's a different type of breakup. Things like that are much more useful in theater than an opera than like the cones and the triangles and things like that.
I think we should come up with the Light Talk 6 and send it to the companies and say, okay, this is what Light Talk suggests you put in your moving lights.
I think we should have the Luman Brothers and Sisters custom set of gobos. We have one gobo that just says "piss off" when you're pissed off at someone or go away. You just piss off, and there it is. Boom, it's gone.
Right.
That's part of the custom set.
We're about to do a healthy order of 2600s, and we are redesigning the whole gobo package on board. And just saying,
of course you are.
This is what we need.
That brings us to our next question, which is William in Ohio asks, what is the best way to match gel colors to LED fixtures? So, guys.
I'm sure Stan would have an answer for this right now.
Stan would have some weird technical answer.
I see a lot of people just like squinting and trying to match it. Someone throws a Lico up on a cyclorama and with a piece of gel in it and then tries to match it over. I've seen people hold a swatch book over one eye and try to look at it. I think that the idea of matching color on your LEDs, I don't know. I think just bravely go into the LED world. And we tried to match R80 a couple days ago, and that was just a journey into 20 minutes of wasted time. You're never going to match it.
A rabbit hole you didn't need to go down.
Make your own color that you like. But I don't know. I'm always suspect a little bit of color pickers and things like that on consoles. I just wonder.
Look. Some of the greatest color scientists and artists have been working in some of the most expensive moving lights and controllers for many, many years, and they have to this day been unable to do it. When you put in that controller, I want an R80 in this light, it comes out green, or it comes out amber, or it comes out something totally different than the R80. It's not even close. So
it's interesting you say that, because last year at this time at USITT, Ken Billington, who clearly grew up with swatch books and gels, right, lined up a whole bunch of moving fixtures, and I guess one fixture with the gel in it, and was like, okay, R80, turn them on. And there were 11 different colors.
That's right.
Right.
So
I'm not surprised.
Right.
Well, I think the better question for William is not that question. It comes down to a budget question. And I think we're going to answer this later in the show, too. I think William has to sit down and do the hard work of mixing colors well before he gets into the theater. It's not like the old days. At least get it close. And you pull up a Morpheus color fader and it was dead on. You've got to spend some time prepping your show and getting it ready. Otherwise, you're just sitting there spinning your wheels with a swatch book in one hand.
Well, is the next question, there are people now who have never designed with a conventional fixture. They only have ever designed with LEDs. They probably never used a swatch book. So eventually the gel question is just going to go away completely because it doesn't mean anything to anybody.
Well, GAM has gone away completely. It's my understanding that is now off the market. So yeah, that day is coming.
Right.
Yeah, it's coming. And to seriously answer your question, what you have to do is understand, first of all, that gels achieve their color through subtractive color mixing, okay? You put in a gel in front of a light, and if it's a blue gel, let's say it's a primary blue gel, basically all the wavelengths of light that are not blue are absorbed, subtracted from the white light going through it. And I say white light, relatively white light, because it's 3200 Kelvin, but that's a whole other story. And that's a subtractive way of color mixing. Where in LED, it's an additive color mixing system. So you're actually adding colors depending on what color LEDs there are. So if you're working on trying to get an R80, the first thing I would do would turn off all the LEDs except for the blue light and the indigo light, and then add a little bit of green, and that's where you're going to get an R80. You got to understand the techniques behind additive and subtractive color mixing in order to match gel colors with LED. Boy, we could have saved a lot of time by just saying that, right? That could have been a lot of gnashing of teeth right there. All right, here's a good one. This is a really funny question. I read this and I couldn't believe it. Roberta from Long Island, which is my hometown, by the way, Elmont, Long Island. Roberta from Long Island asks, how can I get on a rock and roll tour? It seems that the best technology is used on these shows, and the rock stars are so hot. Do they ever date the crew?
I wouldn't call it date. Well,
wait, she wants to be a techie or a roadie or a groupie. What does she want to be here?
No. She likes rock stars. I think that's cool. Do rock star? Well, let's go to the easy answer first, okay? Do they ever date the crew? Rarely.
Not if their wives have anything to say about it.
That's right. Or girlfriends. You do not want to get involved. You never want to date a rock star or anybody like that because you'll be thrown off the tour. That's simple. Eventually, you're going to be thrown off the tour. So, don't date rock stars and don't date, these are people you're working with.
Well, that's the truth right across the board. Yeah, you want to keep a professional relationship wherever you're working.
So she likes rock and roll too. It's true that, yes, some of the best technology is used on these shows. How do you get on a rock tour? You start by finding local, hopefully you live in a large city, local production companies that rent out lighting equipment, that sort of thing. You learn the lighting equipment. You get involved in doing small shows. You get involved in maybe working a larger show, but just, moving cable and, that sort of thing. And, doing hard work. If you're a programmer, it's sort of the same thing. I mean, you got to be an assistant first and you got to meet the right people to get on these tours. The last thing in the world you want to do is go to clubs and try to find bands and hook up with bands, because the chances of any band making it to a rock and roll tour is like you might as well be playing the lottery. So I think the easier way of getting involved in rock and roll is to get a job in a production company and to meet as many programmers as you can, and maybe you can get on that way.
Do you guys remember a company called Showco?
Of course. Yeah.
Well, just today on Facebook, Dusty Hudgens, who I think you might know, posted his picture of his card from getting hired at Showco on March 14th, 1978. And he wrote, 45 years ago, I walked into 9011 Governor's Row in Dallas. All they wanted to know is if I could be on a plane in 4 hours and could I be gone for a month. That was the beginning. That was the beginning of something that I would be connected to for the rest of my life. What a long, strange trip it's been. So bravo to Dusty for that. What a career, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's amazing. And that's the other way you can get on rock tours. Say yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Well,
yes, and I can get on a plane.
The best advice I can give you is you are going to go to the Light Talk archives and you are going to listen to episode 293, in which we had Susan Rose on. And she is going to give you, there it is. There is a lot of experience that you're going to get in a 45-minute show, and she's going to take you right through it. That's who I would turn to, is Susan Rose, episode
she's amazing.
293.
That was a good episode.
And she's still out there,
Yeah, contact her.
Yep.
And get involved in her van. Was that Amy? That was Amy the
That was Amy.
Amy with the broken down van.
Susan
Amy Deluxe.
Susan is the woman. Susan is the one that goes around the world and eats chicken wings every place.
That's right. She does the chicken wings, the best chicken wings in the world.
She was out with Ringo.
Yeah, I need to ask if there was kosher chicken wings. There must be kosher chicken wings.
It's
kosher chicken. Of course there are.
It's funny about the question. If you go back and you look at the episodes of Light Talk and interviews, we've had at least half a dozen major rock and roller designers on. There is a lot of information on the website.
Mark Brickman was on our show.
Well, and I know we also had Ian Peacock on. That's someone who's had a long career in the rock and roll industry.
That's right. Yeah, we need to get Chip Monk on the show. We really do. Chip would be great on the show.
Wow. He's been around a while, too.
Yes, he has.
I'd say. And without Chip, Woodstock would not have happened, let me tell you. Everyone would have been changed now. We'd all look like a bunch of nerds.
Did you notice that Janis Joplin pulled her information off of the Woodstock movie? Do you notice she's not in the movie?
Why is that?
Well, rumor has it she thought her voice was off, and she didn't want that documented for all time. So she blocked her stuff from being on the album.
I think she was pretty stoned during Woodstock. She was there with Country Joe, and that alone would drive you crazy.
We are listening to Light Talk, and today we are sponsored by
Wrecking Ball Leadership Seminars. Are you a new department chair trying to make your mark? Perhaps you have a few roadblocks in place preventing the department from becoming the department you want. Well, you need organization. You need a clear leader and mindful followers. You need ideas filtered through endless committees that never reach your desk. What you have now is too many queens and not enough worker bees. Well, then you need a wrecking ball leadership seminar. Take advantage of our half-day seminar special. Once completed, your colleagues will have absolutely no leadership skills left. In just 4 hours, we can take a functional organization and make it completely dysfunctional through role-playing, getting in touch with yourself, and trust exercises. We will totally isolate your department members. And just to make sure, our proven method is to divide your faculty and staff into 3 teams to comment on the shortcomings of each other. General studies against acting, design against management, staff against faculty. By lunch, no one will be speaking to each other, let alone putting forth ideas, taking a leadership role, or working together. That's right, the department will be in such chaos they will turn to you. Now you can build from the ground up, a clean slate. Be the third world dictator you know you can be. Micromanage all you want. Get zero pushback from your mindless zombies. Satisfaction guaranteed if you promise to roll up your sleeves and bark out orders. Wrecking Ball Leadership Seminar. You are just a phone call away from greatness and just a step away from that deanship you know you deserve.
Oh.
No, I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter.
And now, back to Light Talk.
Well, the sound of those rabid monkeys prancing about the studio tells us that once again it's time for Let's Talk About. And today's Let's Talk About is all about how to become a great leader in your artistic organization. Okay, this goes right with our sponsor, right? This includes production team leadership, organizational leadership, and faculty leadership. And talk about Dean. I'm so sorry you didn't make Dean, Steve. I mean, did you really want to become Dean? That sounds like an awful job.
I think I was talking to one of the associate deans a couple of days ago. And no, I think this is true of chairs. I think this is true of everybody who's in a leadership position. They think it's going to be great, and then the reality of what it is sets in. And all of a sudden, everyone wants a parking space. Everyone's got a complaint. It's no more, hey, how you doing? It's, I want a pay raise. I think if you are a good chair or a good dean, man, God bless you. There's not many of them out there because they've all been worn down by constant nagging and nitpicking and pettiness.
It's funny. I think of the 3 of us, Steve and I are probably the worst people to answer this question because we never wanted this. I mean, I would never want that. Like Steve, I've been head of the design area for several places, and that's about it. I've been asked to be chair numerous times. Absolutely not interested. But I think we have somebody on the panel today who's an expert in leadership, and that is Ellen.
Oh, dear. Yes, but not academic.
You are.
And she slowly lifts the glass of wine to her lips.
Yeah, well, luckily I don't drink, but not academically. I've never really been an academic.
But certainly organizational leadership.
Well, yes, in terms of LDI, in terms of, yes, that. And I think it comes down to people skills. I think it comes down to having the toolkit that you need to get the job done. I was talking on a call this morning with someone who teaches project management for us at LDI, a very smart man called Rohan Garrix, who teaches production management and project management and things like that. And Jesse Chybulski, who is our show director was on there, and the two of them just got off on a tangent about how everything they do is in Excel and some other thing that he's going to use called Smart Sheet and how it'll change your life and all that kind of organizational stuff that I really don't use. But I do think it comes down to two things: having the tools you need to get the job done and the people skills to get the job done.
And people skills includes patience, right? And tolerance and thinking outside the box.
Or thinking that there's no box.
Right. Or thinking that there's no box.
Well, also, I think in that leadership world, it is, I mean, it's cliche, but it is picking people that you want to fill those support roles and then knowing and trusting them. And you know you've picked the right people. You don't have to be looking. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in trouble if you're trying to manage 20 or 30 people.
Right. You want them all to be as smart as you.
Yeah.
Or smarter. It's funny because I've been in a lot of bands, and bands are sort of like marriages with 5 people, right? And trying to organize that. And I would never want to be a band leader. And the good band leaders I learned a lot from. And those are people who don't rule with an iron fist. Not everything that they say has to go. If there's a better idea, they embrace it and they acknowledge it. I think that's really important because, the people around you are going to come up with better ideas. And it's good not to claim that and just say, well, Ellen, that was great. That's a terrific idea. Let's go and try that. You end up being an organizer more than an idea person. You're like channeling all those ideas and like saying which one will work in combination with another and whatever. That's the role of a good leader, I believe. And I've always felt that way. I've said for many times, I talked about, faculty is sort of like a basketball team. And you never know the players. You have no idea who the players may be from year to year. But the job of a good coach is to organize that group of talent into the best possible team possible, right? The best team possible. So, and that's what you do in bands, and that's what you do in production teams. That's what a good director does. Working with the production team, there's certain things that I do really well, and certain things that I can't do very well or don't do very well. And another person on that team could pick up that slack, and I could pick up the slack for that other person, in another area. And if we're all open to that and ego doesn't get in the way, then it could be a very, very positive leadership experience and certainly a production. So I think the good production teams do that, and good faculty do that too. Unfortunately, in my experience of faculty, there's just too much ego and too much power involved, and it's sad. That's the sad part of that, because it's really hard to do.
I'm going to say that I've been at SMU, 23, 24 years. I'm going to go right out there on a limb. I have been blessed with really great colleagues. And for the most part, really great leadership right now. So what's interesting is when you're in a room with these people, it is sitting there quietly and listening to them, as opposed to writing them off the minute they start, or just assuming that person couldn't possibly have a better idea than me. So I think there is a collegiality and some informed people who really contribute. So I have been very fortunate in my tenure at SMU to work with good people. And sadly, 2 of those people have left now. Claudia Stevens has left, and Russell Parkman is departing. And so we have.
I didn't know Russell was leaving.
Russell is retiring. So we have we have a new costume designer coming in, and we're starting a search for a new set designer. And I mean, everybody says this, but those are going to be huge shoes to fill.
Well, I was just going to also say, that I think it's important to make sure that everyone on the team feels a sense of ownership about what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And I used to work for someone who was really smart in that, like, if there was a staff meeting and he was the leader, he barely didn't say anything unless there was a question. Everyone really got a chance to talk. And his theory sort of was, you give them enough rope, they either swing with it or hang themselves.
Or they hang themselves. Yeah, that's pretty much it, too. That's really a great strategy, is let other people talk and listen. Learning how to listen is much more difficult than learning how to talk, and you learn a lot more by listening than talking, I have found.
Right.
All I can say is that, the reason why I feel that Ellen is so qualified for this is because how successful you've been over the years throughout your entire career, working on magazines and obviously working on these big conventions. And I mean, you wanted you want to see something crazy. Ellen, during LDI week, I mean, you are in control. And it's sort of like this madness going on. But if you didn't take the time to organize it and have good people working with you in important positions, it'd be a total disaster.
I do the conference. I do not do the show floor. Believe me, that is the huge part of LDI, and there is a huge team that does the exhibit hall. I organize the conference, which is a big enough job of its own.
Yeah.
Like I said before, Jessie, who is our show manager director now, is really really organized, and she creates these huge Teams documents and Excel documents and their timelines, and you have to put all your deadlines in there, or she puts them in and you have to meet them. And it's really the only way to organize a team of that many people.
I mean, look at the Super Bowl. Look at how many people are involved doing the halftime show at the Super Bowl. How many lighting directors and designers and show people and flying people, and music people and sound people. It's one person can't handle all that. But, one person is kind of in charge, and that person is smart enough to hire really good people to be in charge of all those areas.
Well, yes, there always has to be one person at the top, because otherwise you've got competing noise going on. But
that's right.
Yeah, it is. It's difficult, but I highly recommend that people take project management courses and really, learn the nitty gritty of how to run a team. It's important.
I think we can take some very important things out of this discussion, and that is, if you're coming in with a big ego where your idea has to be the best, you're in the wrong business.
Right.
Definitely,
right.
And you're doomed to fail.
Right.
Because people are not going to want to work for you or with you. And I think that you need to embrace everybody as human beings on the team.
Exactly.
So that's the best way, I think.
Great.
Cool. Well, Steve has the last question of the day.
Wendy in Utah writes, how many cues per hour should I write?
12.
My teacher says to take a day and write the show so tech runs smoothly. All right, so I think there's a huge amount of landmines right here. I think writing cues, the ticket to writing cues, is being prepared when you come into your cue writing session. You have thought about what you're going to do, and every cue is not a discovery. I don't think you can time yourself. I mean, I guess on one level, I think about, if I have 500 cues to write and I've got a day to do that, well, I know that's not going to happen. So I have to kind of realize what is achievable. And maybe, I've seen students crank out 10 cues an hour, and that's pretty aggressive also, trying to write that many and just kind of keep going. It takes what it takes. This idea, I'm not trying to beat up on your teacher, and I'm sure there's some stuff that's been left out of this question. To take a day and write a show, that's kind of hard. I mean, maybe if it's, Count a Hot Tin Roof and the director says it's, I want 3 light cues, that's one thing. Daytime, nighttime, daytime. But I don't think you can time yourself that way. It's like, how many lights do I have to focus an hour? You talk with your electrician, what is achievable? If your electrician comes back and says, well, I think we can knock out, 35 lights in an hour and a half, they probably are aware of what your abilities are, and they can guide you and mentor you through the process. The thing is keeping goals realistic. So we can say, well, I'm going to write 40 cues an hour all day long, and I'm sure there are people who can do that. But, I suspect as a student, that's probably an unrealistic goal. The more you work, the faster you'll get with focusing. The more you work with the same director or the same choreographer, the faster your communication with them will be, and you'll be developing ideas, and there will be kind of a groove that you fall into. But I've never thought about cue writing that way. David, how many cues an hour do you write?
Okay, I write cues now the way I wrote them when I was a young lighting designer. And from watching, masters of the art, people I worked with as an assistant, I learned a lot about this. And the funny thing is, once again, it comes down to music. It goes right back to music. It's like playing jazz. You're going to play Misty, and you know the chord progression, and you know that there's an A section of song, a B section of song, C section of song, and like the intro and of course the outro. But what happens in between, you don't know until you're actually feeling it and playing it. How do you relate that to lighting? Very simple. If you're doing something like a 3-act play, and it's a very simple show, and you know that there are going to be maybe 15 cues in each act, but there are really only 3 atmospheres in Act 1, 3 in Act 2, 3 in Act 3, what I do is I write that first atmosphere, and I spend time doing that. And hopefully the director's there also. May not be, but whatever. I spend the time doing that. And then I know that in that act, there are going to be about 15 focus cues, right? Or they're going to be, some, special where everything pulls down. Who knows? I just dupe it. I just dupe those cues, write them in the board. Boom, 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 boom. And it's the same as cue 1 or whatever that first cue is. Do the same thing for Act 2. Do the same thing for Act 3. So maybe out of all 3 of those acts, there may be 30 cues, but only 4 or 5 of them have been written because I've spent the time doing it. And the rest of them are dupes. And then I write what I missed over that in rehearsal when I actually see actors on stage. If it's a special effect, I can write that. Obviously, that's the time. But I do not try. If you're doing a musical and there are like 300 cues in it, there's no way in the world you're going to do it in like one day. I couldn't do it in one day. And when I had my students show me their cue list, and I said, wait, you've got 12 hours and you've got 400 cues? You're not going to be able to write all these cues. This is how you do it. Okay. And I would basically tell them the same thing I just told you. That's how you do it, because, if you spend all this time nitpicking on this cue, on this atmosphere, and then the director comes in that night and they say, oh no, this is the wrong type of look. I don't want this to look at this at all. Then all those cues you've written, those 100 cues you've written, you might as well throw out the window. So I say get the basic cue done, the basic atmospheres, whatever they are. And again, I still do this to this day. I get them in the board, right? But I get also all the other cues in the board, but they're dupes. The times are different, whatever, but they're basically dupes of the previous cue. So that, and you track everything. You make sure everything's tracked, and you make sure you put block cues at the end of every scene. You're going to be fine, because then it's like, oh, the chandeliers arrived, finally. Okay, let's bring it up. I wrote it in at 30%, and it's too bright. Okay, let's write it in at 10%. Oh, that's perfect. Record, let it track, and it tracked right through that act at that intensity. That's how you do it. And you got to learn how to be facile and work over rehearsals, because that's how it's done.
Now, on Broadway, who's writing those cues? The designer or the programmer?
Well, the designer and the programmer are both writing the cues.
What's difficult here is if Wendy is trying to program her own show.
Right. That's what I was getting at.
I just opened the show. It was a 35-minute ballet, 138 light cues. And my programmer and stage manager were just on top of it. And it's the same way. We are putting a lot of stuff out there and editing all over the place, trying to get it done. And actually, opening day, we did a revision of 40 cues in an hour and 10 minutes. But that's with a programmer who can program as fast as I'm speaking, and a stage manager who's not letting me screw up, who's staying on top of things and going, I know you're saying cue 48, but you mean cue 49. You've got to, again, you kind of have to.
What you really mean is 49.
You really have to have a team around you when you're trying to work on that kind of pressure.
Wow. I'm exhausted now. I think we should end the show.
All right. I hear music in the background.
Well, the rocking sounds of the Luminoids tells us that once again, you've spent another morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on just about every podcast site out there. check out our website at lighttalk.org and be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk Insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
if you do decide to litigate, the Snoot Group, with the legal team of Sparks, Burnout, and Chase, will defend us until our retirement funds are depleted.
Light Talk is produced by the Luman Brothers, coming to you from Long Beach, St. Bart's.
And sister.
And sister. And sister.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Luman Brothers.
The Luman Brothers and sisters.
Coming to you from Long Beach, St. Bart's, and the Republic of Texas.
And be sure to join us next week when we talk about more lighting shenanigans and serve you much more of our casserole of nonsense, along with a smoke and a pancake.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
So we'll see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Toodles.
Bye.